Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Bush.
If you were going to write a book about the first Elite 50 series, you'd have had a solid pick for whose picture was going to be on the cover by the time the series reached its fourth and final event at Paducah, Kentucky. Before long, Kevin VanDam had it pretty much put away. And another story emerged, the fight for second place and $100,000. Stacey King versus Alton Jones. That's coming up. While Greg Hackney boated this monster and made it all the way to second place at the first E-50 event in Arkansas in Lake Dardanelle, Kevin VanDam had been getting enough results to wind up in the top 10 with an 8th place finish. North Carolina's Dustin Wilkes found a lot to like about the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway at Columbus, Mississippi, when he boated this 5-pound, 6-ounce monster on the final day and got himself into 3rd place behind winner Mark Davis and, yep, 2nd place, Kevin VanDam. Yeah. The 3rd stop on the Alabama River in Prattville produced an amazing 2nd win in a row for Mark Davis. And a couple of what might have been for superstars like Denny Brower. Denny Brower, who may have hooked enough fish to win that tournament. And a similar story for Tommy Biffle. Oh! And in the background, Kevin VanDam making the cut to 12, fishing the 3rd day to pick up the 12th place points. Other anglers made a move as well, like Dean Rojas.
Look at that. Yes! 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 Yes!
But it was VanDam in 1st place total series points going into the 4th event. Mark Davis, 5 points behind, but VanDam was ready to start in Paducah.
I pulled up on this place, and I fished it the same way. I had gotten 1 bite there, is all. I fished it the same way with a crankbait, and I didn't get a bite, and I threw a tube at it a little bit, and I changed my angle a little bit, and I just knew that it's a better, you know, that it had to be a spot that all these fish in this area would gravitate to. And after, you know, 100 casts or so, I caught one. And I told my cameraman, I said, be ready because I'll probably catch one the next cast too. That usually, you know, you got to get that school fired up. And I threw out there in the next cast, I caught a 4-pounder. You know, all I had to do was get those fish excited. You know, once the first one got caught out of there, you know, it just excited that whole school. And I don't think anybody probably ever really caught those fish before.
Wait! 14! Mark Davis matter was settled after the first day of fishing. 14 pounds, 4 ounces, the 2nd best limit of the day. Put some distance between Kevin VanDam and the rest of the crowd. In fact, the only angler left in sight was the man with the best weight on day 1, Greg Hackney. But Hackney knew he'd have to gamble, do what it takes to catch big fish, and VanDam would have to have a total collapse to keep the inevitable from coming to pass. But as soon as VanDam began to put fish in the boat, Greg Hackney's hopes began to fade. And once again, Kevin VanDam had figured out some tough fishing conditions at a very opportune time. And the trophy belonged to the man who performed the way the series demanded, to be consistent from event to event. The $150,000 first prize and the first name ever on an Elite 50 trophy goes to Kevin VanDam.
I've just really made good decisions through the 4 events and adapted really well. I mean, I'm as proud of the performance that I've had here as any I've ever done. I see the water's going down or the water's going up, and I said, well, this is what I should do, and I make that change, and it was the right thing, you know, because so often this year during the tour season, I didn't make the right decision. So, I mean, you just get on a roll, and it seems to, you know, keep going together.
And so the cream has, in fact, risen to the top with one of the Bassmaster's brightest stars becoming the first ever E-50 champion. But we have got a ton of unfinished business as we send out our final Super 6 for one more grueling day on the Ohio River that passes by Paducah, Kentucky here just before it flows into the Mississippi in western Kentucky. And here, it all lays out in front of us. I'm Tommy Sanders, Fish Fishburne here in Fish. Hey, congratulations, Kevin VanDam. Got the big job done, won the E-50 championship, but this race for second place with $100,000 on the line is as big as anything we've had all season.
Well, these guys have been chasing VanDam the whole year, but one guy that's chasing him for that 2nd place finish in the points is Alton Jones from Waco, Texas. Alton has been so-so this year. He's in 15th place coming into this tournament, and I'm thinking that Stacey King's saying to himself, Nobody can beat me. I'm in second in the points, but I got news for you. If Alton Jones wins this tournament, he goes home with the cash from this one, $100,000 for second. And, buddy, I'm telling you, it's all going to boil down to the Super 6 in this event right here.
Well, I'm actually 2 points ahead of Alton right now. I have 10:30 and Alton has 10:28. And if Alton wins this tournament, he'll get a bonus 5 points for winning, and he'll beat me by 3 points. I'll drop to third. I think that's the only effect it could have on me. Now, if he would have a poor tournament, I would stay in second. But he told me a while ago he could drop as far as ninth. If he'd come in sixth today, he could drop down to ninth place. So it could really affect him one way or the other. But I'm only going to be affected one spot or another, and about $30,000.
Okay, so Stacy's not going anywhere. He'll be at the weigh-in to watch our Super 6, including this man, Mark Menendez, the Paducah native. Our series champion on the Elite 50, Kevin VanDam. Rick Clunn, one of the greatest of all time, has made his way into the Super 6. Skeet Reese, maybe the greatest from the West Coast at this point of time. And David Wharton, the professional, the veteran from down in Rayburn Country in Texas. And leading the way, Alton Jones of Waco, Texas. He's got the top weight, and he's got a lot to gain if he can win on this final day.
We are ready for the fourth and final round of competition at this Elite 50 event. And there are the weights from yesterday. Can Alton Jones hang on to this thing?
Well, don't go away. There's a lot more to be decided, not only for the top 6, for everyone else in the Elite 50, and some guys who even aren't in the Elite 50. We got a lot to see.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Bush. By Purelator. And by Motor Guy.
Out of Waco, Texas, give it up for Alton Jones.
There he is, our event leader, going into the final day of the final event of the Elite 50 Series. We're here in Paducah, Kentucky. These boats running up the Ohio River. We're fishing the Ohio, the Cumberland, and the Tennessee rivers exactly. And during the week, Fishburne, we have seen a lot of boats take both rights into the Tennessee and the Cumberland.
And take a look at that. That off-color water is actually clear water dumping into the Ohio that's virtually so muddy, these guys are leaving it alone. They're not even going to fish there. And remember, dirty water creates a silt that's up in the water column, and it gets in the fish's gills, and they don't bite. So go find the clear water.
We will see this boat, the boat of Rick Clunn, also that of David Wharton and Skeet Reese, continue on up the Ohio River, but they're headed for this lock there. They're going through that lock into the Smithland Pool. One of the biggest locks I've ever seen in my life. You could get the Queen Mary in this thing here. The bass boats look kind of tiny in there. But they're going up to the next pool looking for, I assume, fish, backwaters, and other places where they might be likely to find a bass.
Any place to get off that dirty water is what they're going to focus on.
Well, Rick Clunn has made this trip into Lush Creek in the Smithland Pool every day. And it's qualified him for this final day of fishing, so you can't argue with his tactics. Rick Clunn, one of the greatest of all time, 4 classic victories. 57 years old, now living in Missouri.
And throwing a crankbait, that is what has made Rick Clunn more money than any other lure in his box. And here he goes. He's hooked up with one right now.
Right there.
And remember, a crankbait allows these guys to cover a lot of water. They're looking for aggressively feeding fish. When they throw the jigs and the worms and the other subtle baits, that's because they've slowed down and they've located fish. Now, let's not take away from Clunn the fact that he's only fishing a quarter-mile square. All of the fish he's been catching are in this one little area, and I think he just realized how big this fish is. Tommy, I saw him roll up right there. It looks like a 3 or 4 pound bass.
Well, he's really taking a lot of care getting this fish into the boat. You see a lot of guys swing them. Of course, you get the bigger fish on, you don't see him swing, but Rick is being especially careful, just letting the fish kind of have his way for a little while.
Absolutely. Now, look at him. He's pulling the rod tip in, pushing the rod down, grabbing the line.
Hand line, and oh!
Who's got who? What's going on? Look at him.
Okay, I like you, but not that much.
Well, bass anglers all over the world speak the name of Rick Clunn with a great deal of reverence, but sometimes it's great just to see that your heroes are human, like the rest of us once in a while.
He broke his rod.
Did that too.
That's fantastic. He's a maniac. And you know what we need to do? Let's see this thing in slow motion. Look at this bass come up. The crankbait hook, front treble, goes in his shirt, and you know what? That fish should have come off right there with all that tension, and Clunn didn't know what to do right there. He's thinking, I don't want to get a hook in my hand, so I'll just do the body roll and back into that boat and land him, and here he is throwing the crankbait some more.
Kind of a dangerous way to make sure you get a shot of your shirt, isn't it?
All right, let's check in with our leader coming into today. Alton Jones makes the quick right out of Paducah into the Tennessee River, heading up to Kentucky Lake Dam there, a short trip, maybe 10 miles or less, under I-24, and that's where we find Alton Jones, the dam in the background. We see the riprap in the foreground, and under the water, that rock continues, causing a current break there, and Alton Jones is waiting for the current to come along.
It's really going to change around, you know, where they're biting and how they're biting. You know, that was the money cast yesterday, but we're going to have to, our sweet spot's going to move around a little bit as the current changes. You can look and see how much less current there is today. That's typical on a weekend.
So here's a look at the bait that he's using, the Houdini worm. It's magical, people. Well, it's working for Alton Jones, and he's got it split-shotted, which is a little bit different than the technique we've heard a lot about with the Citco Bassmaster Tour this season and the E-50, the drop shot. This is a little bit different. It doesn't get hung up as much in those rocks.
Not a big one, but he's a keeper, and he'll start us out for the day. Which way does he want to go? He can't even decide. Number one. Now, that only took about 5 minutes. So, and he was up shallower on that little point there. He was actually in a place I hadn't been catching him. So the current changed, my sweet spot's changed.
Well, that fish puts Alton Jones on the board. Take a look at the scoreboard there. We'll always show our winner in terms of his total pounds for 2 days. Everyone else expressed in terms of how far they are behind the leader. And Alton Jones, we're watching very closely today because with the win, if he can stay on top, he stands to make a big financial bonus. We're watching that one. Another thing we're watching is the lay of the land. Jerry McInnes is here. Did you know he was here?
You forgot about me.
Almost.
I'm still reeling from that Rick Clunn catch. It seemed to me that that'd be something you'd do, Fish.
Well, you know, Rick Clunn,
on purpose.
He's very serious normally. He's lightening up a little.
Hey, my job is to take a look at the map and try to explain this river system. And if you've ever been on I-24 across western Kentucky, you've probably traveled across the Tennessee River and the Cumberland River. Now, just south of I-24, you're going to find Lake Barkley. Just to the side of it is Kentucky Lake. Below Kentucky Lake is the Tennessee River. Right about here is where we just saw Alton Jones doing his fishing. The river continues on, probably 7 or 8 miles, runs into the Ohio, and then let's move over to Barkley. Now, this is the Cumberland River this time, and it probably, 20 miles through the woods and in the hills before it hits the Ohio River, and just below I-24 is where Kevin VanDam is sitting. If you're crossing the bridge right now, you're looking at Kevin VanDam. And folks, this is our E-50 champion right here. He wants to win this individual event, but regardless, the points crown cannot be taken away from him.
There he is. A good one, too. Spot.
Well, Kevin VanDam, for the second straight day, starts out with a spotted bass instead of the expected smallmouth.
Swing him.
The very interested spectator watches Alton Jones as he tries to protect his lead. That would be Alton Jones Jr. right there. We're going to keep a close watch on Alton Jones. He stands to gain a lot if he can win this final event in Paducah. And the local Paducah favorite, Mark Menendez, runs into trouble. It's all coming up. Final day of fishing at the final event of the Elite 50 Series. We're here in Paducah, Kentucky. This boat headed up the Ohio River. Kevin VanDam has already clinched the series championship. And we do have 6 anglers going up the river. These 2 guys we're following here, Skeet Reese and David Wharton, are continuing on into that same lock we saw Rick Clunn lock through a while earlier, and they're both headed for the same place, the Gokanda Marina. They both had big days on day number 3, and is it going to be too crowded in here?
I sure would like to fish the other corner right off the get-go, but I've let David start there each day, and I start over here, he starts over there, and then I wind up working over there, and yesterday he came over here. But the bigger fish are definitely in this corner, though, I think. But the potential of a 3-4 pounder on this bank's good. I lost one a little further down here the first day.
This corner owes me a fish. There's a little old rock pile a little bit deeper right there that there was 2 on the first day. There it is right there. Should have bit it when it came over.
With so much muddy water, you've got to remember it's going to group these guys up. There you can see Skeet Reese. Right next to him, David Wharton. This happens a lot in these events, though, because these are the best in the world, and they always find the same fish. They use their tactics and techniques that they've accumulated over the years and years, all that experience, and they're always going to find bass.
Skeet Reese, that may be a keeper.
It's a smallmouth. That is the ugliest, most beat-up smallmouth. Poor guy. No wonder why he ate my spinnerbait. He's blind in one eye. But I like him for it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. One on the board for Skeet Reese, who's kind of buddied up with David Wharton. And now we've seen or heard from every one of the anglers in the field, with the exception of Mark Menendez. And Mark started his day with his dog, Barkley, who ironically is named after Lake Barkley. And he heads up the Ohio River, we've been on this path before, to the mouth of the Cumberland. At this point, he's going to turn towards the dam and make a run that will put him, well, in between the dam and the Highway 62 bridge. And from this point, boy, a very unusual day begins for Mark Menendez. Mark had a great year on the tour. He's the local favorite, being from Paducah. Comes into this day in 6th place. And because non-boaters do not compete in the boat of E-50 anglers, Mark is allowed to take Barkley along. A tube on the riprap produces the first fish, and from that point, the event begins to change for he and Barkley. Get ready for this.
Good one to get started with. Oh, shoot. Kentucky law states that above that bridge, you are to wear your life jacket. And in my excitement of getting here this morning, I've taken my life jacket off, and my catch will probably not count today. And that just occurred to me right then.
Mark puts on his jacket, and he makes a call to Trip Weldon, the tournament director.
Hey, Trip, I think I pulled a boo-boo, buddy. I ran up here up to Barkley, went under the bridge in my haste, shut the motor off, pulled my life jacket off, fished for about an hour and a half, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm above the bridge with no life jacket on. So does that, I do have one fish in possession. Does that disqualify my catch for the day, or what? Because I do feel I was in the wrong. Okay. He said he's going to make a further judgment on it, but I am disqualified to this point with what I do have. So what I'm going to have to do is release that fish, and then I will be able to continue fishing, and then he'll give me a judgment at the end of the day. But I am in the wrong, so he'll most likely disqualify me. But that's part of it. So we'll release this one. He will be released. And we'll get started again and see what the director has to say at the end of the day. Mark, you still love me? You still love me, buddy? Yeah, you do. That helps.
What do you think about that fish? Calls it on himself.
You have to, Tommy. You're out there on the river, you're working hard, and I hate to say it, Menendez lives in Paducah. He should know better, but things change when you're out here, and there's a lot of rules to remember, and
It's a slip. Someone is watching Rick Clunn. Now, Clunn's going to cast the same crankbait out. He's throwing a Norman crankbait, which is, again, one of his top lures in his arsenal. And Clunn, when he catches fish, you watch him. He'll walk the fish around the boat. And the reason he's doing that is crankbait hooks tend to pull out. So you want to take your time and gently drive the fish the direction he's going before you bring him. There you go, in the boat. And you can see he was hooked on the back treble hook. Well, that's our leader, Alton Jones, fishing a spot that's probably not the most pristine place we have looked at so far this year, either on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour or on the Elite 50 Series. Well, it may not look good to us, Tommy, but I'll tell you right now, the bass love it here. Smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass, all piling up in that big chunk rip-rap rock right by the dam, and that's where the crayfish and the other bait live that these bass are sitting around waiting to ambush. Meanwhile, Skeet Reese is thinking about making a move.
Don't know what's going to happen in here today. If I could catch a couple here in the next hour, then, yeah, that'll change things. But if we don't have a couple fish in the next hour or so, what time is it? 12. If I launch at 2, leave at 2, we get down there at 3. That gives us 3 hours and 40 minutes of fishing. That might be a good call right there.
I would have been real disappointed in you if you'd have said you're okay to go ahead and fish the rest of the day, so. Hey, not a problem, my man. Thank you. See you after a while. Well, that's official. That was Tripp, our tournament director. And now that I'm below the bridge, as you can see, I'm okay not to have a life jacket on. But Tripp has made the final judgment, which was the absolute right call. I made a rule infraction. I broke our state law, which is part of our rules, state, federal, local laws. So he has rendered the sentence is a disqualification for the day, which was to be expected, and that is fine. Because maybe this will serve as an example to other fishermen or aspiring fishermen that you have to follow the rules or pay the penalties, and I'm going to pay the penalty today. But it's been a great event here and a valuable learning experience for me.
Our Elite 50 Series is winding down, the last day of fishing here on the Ohio, Cumberland, and Tennessee rivers. Reese and Clunn, Skeet and Rick, they're one fish back of our leader, Alton Jones. In these E-50s, you get 3 days of practice, no info from anyone other than another competitor. And Rick Clunn says he's always frowned on getting outside information of any kind, even from another competitor.
That's the hardest thing because everybody wants a quick fix in our society, and it's a constant temptation. I mean, out there on the water, people come up to you, and especially if you get any notoriety, then everybody wants to be your friend, and so everybody's trying to help you. And if you're feeling a little extra pressure for whatever reason, that tournament, it gets to be tempting. And the problem with it is, it really is kind of a placebo type, or metaphorically speaking, a drug. And if you take it one time, you probably get hooked on it. And what it takes away from you is the worst thing that can possibly be taken away from you, and it becomes a thief of the worst kind because it steals your self-confidence. And what I normally tell a young angler, if I do work with him, is say, I want you to go out there and I want you to practice for 2 or 3 days. And then after it's over, let's go over what you did. I said, but I don't come to me before then, because if I had a great day, then you're blind, and I'll tell you what I'm doing, then you're going to go off and go chase, my thing. And it may not be the thing for you to be doing.
Those were some great words for the young angler from Rick Clunn there. And talk about young anglers who find their own fish. If you don't pattern yourself after Rick Clunn, just as well you'd pattern yourself after the E-50 champion here, Kevin VanDam.
Not a giant, but I might have figured the angle out finally. Gosh. Give me some love! It's about time.
First thing you notice is Kevin's got a prettier place to fish than Alton. Absolutely, but now VanDam's got a sweet spot, so does Alton. Alton's sweet spot consists of an outcropping of rocks
where you have a major current break virtually in either direction, where the bait moves around and the fish are waiting again just to ambush and eat what's available.
There, I got this one. I'll let him eat it good. Let's see if he's a keeper. I think he might be. About a 13-incher. Oh, man. Got a lot of time. I got this one. It's a good one. It's a good fish. Not a good fish, but he's a keeper. How about a keeper fish? Which is good at this point in the game. Now stay on it. Let me lift you in the boat. You're not that big. Thank you. Took me long enough, but that is number 5. And that, unfortunately, that's probably my biggest one of the day. But I tell you what, I got plenty of time to cull 2 or 3 times. I'm gonna put him over here on the, start another side.
Well, you don't have plenty of time, Alton, but there is enough time. Boy, that last fish was a big cushion for you. And I want to show you the Alton Jones fishing rig here. This is a little 6-inch Houdini worm on 6-pound test line, a real small worm hook, and a split shot up the line, maybe 10 inches above the worm. This is a finesse rig. And when was the last time you saw a guy fishing for $100,000 using a rig such as this? This is actually what I use when I'm fishing in the creek out behind the house. I actually think this is pretty smart. Alton is fishing for those really hard-to-get-to-bite bass, and it's working.
Well, Jerry, you're talking about the finesse worm. David Wharton continues to try to get something happening, flipping the tube there. Stay with us. Skeet Reese and Rick Clunn are about to make it interesting. Last day of fishing for the top 50 anglers in the world. Our Elite 50 here in Paducah, Kentucky. Alton Jones, our leader on this final day. We're following Skeet Reese. Skeet, a guy who's just, well, let's say he's a little different.
Everything I feel on there going dunk, dunk, dunk. My body goes. I had like no line left on the rod. I was getting ready to pull it out and he ate it.
All right, Fish, analyze that. Well, I've got to tell you what he was doing. He was actually making sounds of the bait banging off of the riprap, and look where he is. He's right at the takeoff area. Anglers do this with regularity. Jump back to 1987. George Cochran on the Ohio River won that tournament out of Louisville, fishing in sight of the boat ramp. You go, Skeet Reese.
Yes. It's 4, baby. I got 4.
Skeet Reese finding success where it all started this morning at the takeoff in the city of Paducah. David Wharton staying with the spot where both of them first traveled to this morning up in the Smithfield pool.
And there's another fish for Wharton. He's going to be on the board with this one. If he gets him in the boat, you can see these fish are jumping a lot.
Finally, we caught one. Finally got off the big 0.
Over to Kevin VanDam. They know to bring him his mail here. He's not moved from this spot all week long, and man, it paid off for him.
It did. He's stuck with his spot the whole time, but these smallmouth can be really finicky and tricky, and they can move with the current and leave a spot where there was bait. There's a fish for him, though, just flipping the same tube that he's been using all week, right up against those undercut banks, Tommy.
We're going to leave KVD, our series champ, and check in again with Skeet Reese at the launch ramp.
You know, to fish a small area like me and David have been fishing for the last 4 days, it got a lot of pressure. I mean, it's tough for that to hold up for 4 days of competition. You know, do I think there's still, you know, another 15-pound limit swimming around that place? Yeah. But I think we've, you know, whether we conditioned them or just, you know, the fish haven't moved around enough to really get us, you know, to where we can catch them again.
Well, it looks like, Skeet, you figured out that you can upgrade your limit right here at the boat ramp. Keep up the good work. He's been there, Tommy, about 2 hours, and there's obviously a lot of fish here.
Skeet Reese from Auburn, California. He's notched 2 wins with the Bassmasters. 21 top 10 finishes since 1997. He likes to hang around the top. And believe it or not, this fish ties him with Alton Jones. Back to Alton Jones, needing for his spot to produce one more time.
You know, it's hard to find a place that'll produce a limit 4 days in a row. That's extremely, extremely rare for one little spot like this to keep producing. Even though it hadn't produced today like it has the other days, there's something down there that they're really wanting to be a part of.
Alton Jones of Waco, Texas, has been wonderfully consistent throughout this final tournament of the Elite 50 Series. 11 pounds, 3 ounces on the first day, and so it has gone. But today, only about 7 pounds, has this terrific spot run dry. And there's Rick Clunn making the run back to Paducah. Maybe he's just a little bit late. And what about Skeet Reese already there at the launch in Paducah? Well, time for Skeet to have a little fun, this time with the cameraman.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh.
Now look what you did, dude. You pooped the cameraman. I gotta get this on tape. Ow!
That's the best thing I've done all day. That made my day right there.
If Kevin VanDam wins the Citgo Bassmaster Elite 50, it will cap an extraordinary career, one that another angler on tour has closely emulated. Find out when we return. When Kevin VanDam started his professional career on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour in 1991, he literally burst on the scene, racking up a win and 3 top 5 finishes that year. The parallel to his early career with Greg Hackney's is similar. In 2004, Hackney won the Rookie of the Year title, finished second in the Citgo Bassmaster Angler of the Year standings, and 4th in the Elite 50 standings. All that remains to be seen is how Hackney will perform in his second season. For the record, VanDam won his first Angler of the Year title in his second season.
Woo! That's what I'm talking about! Woo!
Final minutes of fishing in our final event of the Elite 50 Series here in Paducah, Kentucky. Alton Jones, our co-leader at 18 pounds over 2 days with Skeet Reese. Alton Jones needs to win this event because if he does, he picks up second place in series points, and that to him will mean a $100,000 payday. Alton Jones is starting to sweat it out at this point.
I'm gonna go fish this bank up here real quick while the currents change, and then I'm gonna come back and spend my last few minutes making that same cast again. There's one. That's a little better one. I can cull with it. I can cull with him. I can cull with him. Watch out there. Stay on, baby. He's got it good and deep. They're finally eating this bait a little bit. That's a little bit better. Another 1.5-pounder.
Very important fish for Alton Jones. That breaks him out of that tie for first place with Skeet Reese, at least momentarily. Again, Alton Jones needs to win this tournament. First place or nothing. That's the only way he can collect the $100,000 prize for second in Elite 50 Series points. Back to Rick Clunn. They're at the weigh-in where we started the day.
And you got to remember, this is nice for these guys. If there's a lot of fish piled up where you start and where you finish each day, it's only going to be a bonus. And here Clunn's got another big fish. Watch him play the fish around the boat with a long fiberglass rod. He prefers fiberglass in his cranking rods just because it allows the fish a little extra time from the shock absorption, unlike graphite, which is much quicker and responsive. There's a great crankbait bass.
Rick Clunn waited a long time before he came back down to Paducah here. Rick Clunn, normally known for fishing very close to home.
This is stupid.
When he says stupid, he's referring to leaving these fish and making that long run up the Ohio through the lock. Feels a little foolish.
That's my little bug right there. It's a little, it's a 9/16 ounce tungsten Terminator spinnerbait. So it's real small, real heavy, nickel blades, little chartreuse and white skirt. It's not your normal skirt. It's a real thin-bodied skirt, so a smaller profile than a traditional spinnerbait. But they seem to be eating it pretty good.
Well, here's the situation. Alton Jones, the leader right now, fishing under the Kentucky Lake Dam up on the Tennessee River. Skeet Reese and Rick Clunn have made the run all the way back down almost to the city of Paducah at our takeoff point.
Now, some of these guys are going to be playing catch-up. Clunn's got a long way to go, but Skeet Reese right there, you have to wonder, what if these guys had started here and never left?
A little bit late at this point to start wondering about things like that. I guess they just fish on, keep going.
Notice the color of that crankbait in this muddy, off-colored water, chartreuse. Skeet Reese was throwing a chartreuse spinnerbait.
And our crowd who's come early for the weigh-in getting a little bit of early action here. They get to see some live fishing, and that's a rare thing in the world of professional bass tournament fishing.
I think, Tommy, we should have all of the tournaments in a 2.5-mile square and put bleachers all along the riverfront.
A bass fishing amphitheater. If you'll invent it, the people will come, Fish Fishburne, I guarantee you. We're on the Ohio River right here, where you can pick up some boat positioning tips from just about anyone. Back to Alton Jones, who'd like to pick up a little insurance.
That's a better one. That's a better one. Now we're talking, if I can keep him out of the stuff. Now we're talking. Don't get in that steel. Don't get in that steel. Come this way. Come this way. That's going to be a little bit better fish. That's a better fish. It's a bigger fish.
Could be the one, the $100,000 fish for Alton Jones.
Oh, this is the one I want. This is the one I need. Oh, come on, please stay on, stay on, stay on. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. It's got to be a bass, the way it's running. Doesn't fight like a... Oh, yeah, it's a 3-pounder. 3-pounder. Oh, I'm getting my hand in your mouth or around your body or something. I got you. Yeah. Oh, man. That's an important fish right here. Oh, thank you, Lord. I just am so grateful for every bite I get. I'll put him over here. Now, I went from about a 15% chance of winning to about a 30% chance of winning. Patience. You gotta be patient. You gotta stick with your fish. You gotta believe in your spot.
The weigh-in is just ahead. First to the weigh-in stand will be this man, Mark Menendez. You remember he made the infraction early on today, called it on himself, and he got a chance to explain it to the crowd.
What a strange set of circumstances occurs today.
Well, that's fishing for you. You know, this is an exciting sport. I'm just really speechless by that. Thank you all so much. I'm tore up about it, man. Tore up. You could see the video, and when I realized what I had done, you just saw the air deflate from the game, and you know, the sport's on the rise. This is the upper level. This is as high as it gets. And it was not tough for me to do that. It's tough to stand here now, but it was not tough for me to do that. But we have to make it very evident what this sport is about and where it's going. This is the highest level of credibility in fishing, and it just shows what this organization is about, what the Bassmasters Classic means, what the new Elite 50 trail means as far as fishing goes.
Well, Mark Menendez will not be weighing in fish today, but 5 other anglers from our Super 6 will be. Stick around for that. Let's take a look at our push shootout standings right now. All the fishing is complete for the season. There are your top 10. Ben Matsulu, the last man in. The man leading the way, Kelly Jordan. His stringer from Santee Cooper, 32 pounds and 2 ounces. We'll also add John Murray, the Open champion, and Thad Pecos, the Federation champion, coming up in the push shootout later this year.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Busch Light. By Berkeley Tri-League. And by Flowmaster.
Well, the fishing is complete at the last event of the E-50 series in Paducah, Kentucky. We're ready for the weigh-in. Before we get to that, though, let's first recognize Greg Hackney. His largemouth bass, 4 pounds and 15 ounces, takes the Pure Later Big Bass Award for this tournament stop in Paducah. And now we're ready for the weigh-in. Hey, can Alton Jones hang on and win this thing? If he can, it'll put him second place in season E-50 points. Will net him a $100,000 prize. If he doesn't win this event, well, Stacey King is the man who collects the $100,000. Guess who's in the audience watching everything that's going on in this weigh-in? We're ready to turn it over to Fish Fisher.
Stacey's on pins and needles because you said it exactly right, Stacey. For you to finish second, Alton has to drop out of that #1 spot, and he's going to be our final guy coming across the line.
Well, that's, you know, look at the distance between the points up here. It's just unbelievable how competitive and close this race has been all the way. You know, it's been a tense day for me. I've been, you know, I'm going to be very happy with winning third place, but I'm going to be a lot happier if I win second place.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Alton's back there. Fish.
All right, now to get this thing started, give it up for Kevin VanDam. Need 5'8" to take the lead. 5 pounds, 14 ounces.
My spot really dried up today. There wasn't much current, and I had to change up. And you know, I had some bites. I just didn't catch many of any size.
Let me hear you talk to Rick Clunn. What does he need to take this thing from VanDam currently? Just over 3 pounds. Rick, how many are in there?
Got 5.
8 pounds, 15 ounces. Rick Clunn.
Well, thank you, Fish. I just stuck with what I've been doing all week. You know, just putting 5 fish in the boat and weighed, you know, about the same. So like I said yesterday, I thought I was going to have a big bite, and I didn't really get the big bite today. So I think that's going to make it real close instead of somebody just being able to relax.
You guys lively in this place up for Skeet Reese. Let's go to the scale. Skeet Reese needs 8 pounds, 9 pounds, and 2 ounces.
I didn't know where to catch fish in the rest of the river. I knew a lot of release fish got let go here in the last few weeks, so I came back down here. I ain't proud to say it. I caught release fish all week long. I don't care. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but I'm taking home a check because of it. So.
There you go, Skeet Reese with the lead. Let's bring in David Warden. Kentucky in a weight of 1 pound and 10 ounces a day, 110, a top 6 finish.
Well, yeah, you know, I had a great day, actually. So what else could you ask for?
Well,
all I needed to do was catch some fish, and then I'd had a marvelous day.
This is Alton Jones. Now he needs 6 pounds and 14 ounces to take it home. 9 pounds, 15 ounces. Your champion, Alton Jones.
I tell you what, I just don't know what to say. To come in here and win an E-50 event against this group of guys, it's absolutely a dream come true. Where did I end up in the points? Going into this, I didn't even know that I had a chance at like second place.
You were 15th in the points coming into this event. Alton Jones, you just finished second in the points.
Woo! I can't believe it. That's just an incredible feeling. You know, for ESPN to have put together a tournament series like this, no entry fee, and they're going to pay out well over $1 million today to these 50 guys is really groundbreaking, and it certainly has taken our sport to a new level, and I think we're going to be impressed with where it's going to go in the future.
Your champion from Waco, Texas, Alton Jones. How about that Alton Jones had to win the tournament to collect second place in season points, and he does it, wins the $100,000.
Wins it on a creek worm.
All right, the little Houdini makes a final appearance in the show here. Well, that wraps up the E-50 season, but the next thing on our plate, Jerry, is going to be the Bassmaster Classic.
Big thing on our plate.
That is a huge thing this year, and now, with the end of this E-50 series, our field is set. You want to talk about the qualifiers for a moment?
Let's go.
All right, we start with the Federation qualifiers, the guys from the Bass Federation. That would include Russ Lane, William Pippin, Jeff Boyer, George Acord, and Thad Takis.
I remember Thad Keystone Lake over there in Tulsa. Fishing was really tough, and Fed comes up with a 6-pounder that just ended the whole thing and put him in the Classic.
Absolutely blew him away. Of course, our Elite 50 was also about qualifying for the Classic, in that the top 10 finishers from this Elite 50 series go to the Bassmaster Classic at Lake Wiley in South Carolina. Kevin VanDam, our series winner, leads the way in there, and a lot of big names. Alton Jones coming in there second place.
And Dustin Wilkes is in 10th place right there. And again, a 6-pound bass down there on the Tim River. Probably got Dustin into the Classic.
Probably the one. All right, also continuing to the Citgo Bassmaster Classic, the top 25 finishers from the Citgo Bassmaster Tour. Leading the way there, of course, our Angler of the Year, Gerald Swindle. Now, from this list, we've already pulled out the top 10 from the Elite 50 going to the Classic, so these are the top 25 who are left. Look at that second page there, Takahiro Omori.
And Davey Hyde, champion 5 years ago. He's in the list.
All right, another look at these guys. Mark Kyle, our Bassmaster Rookie of the Year. I don't think he's been given enough credit throughout the rest of the season. He's really done a great job through the last 2 years, as a matter of fact. And as we look at this final page of anglers, remember we said we pulled the Elite 50 anglers out of this tour qualifier list. That opened up 7 spaces, and these are the guys who made it in at the last minute.
These guys were sitting on pins and needles. How about Jason Quinn?
Guides there on Lake Wiley where they're having the Classic, and Ben Matsubu, the last man in. Jay Yellis, the 2003 Citgo Angler of the Year. He is in the field as well. The field is set now, in addition to the top 3 finishers in each of the 4 open divisions. You've been seeing their names crawling by on the screen. 53 anglers. 53
anglers, and Tommy, I predict the biggest Classic there in Charlotte ever. You need to be there. We're going to dedicate 11 hours to television. If you can't be there, we've got it for you here on ESPN3.
We'll have it covered every possible way, and it all begins that Friday night, July 30th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the weigh-in from the first day of fishing at the Classic, and that's when we'll see you next time.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to Bassmaster.com.